today we are going to be talking about 5 ways, as you can tell on the screen, 5 ways to avoid stroke. So what does stroke mean? Stroke basically means a blood clot in the brain or a blood clot from another part of the body that lodges in the brain and prevents basically blood flow to the regions of the brain that may be supplied by the artery. Excuse me. All right, so basically, blood must be supplied to every part of the body, especially in the brain, because it's a central processing unit where we know that without blood supply or without adequate blood supply, things can go bad, right? So in a stroke, what happens is a clot, which may have formed in any part of the body or even in the brain, blocks the flow of blood through the vessels to where it must supposedly should go and supply nutrients and oxygen. And as soon as that happens, cells that are blocked from receiving the blood become compromised or they begin to die. And when they die, that is where stroke paralysis and all those things that happen after stroke is seen. If we're able to stop it from proceeding in a long way, then of course we will say that the stroke wasn't serious or the person has recovered, or it was maybe a TIA, which is just a transient ischemic attack. So basically the damage was not there. But for our case, we are talking about how to prevent this from happening. So it's either a blood clot that is happening there, or a rupture of a blood vessel in the brain. So a blood vessel in the brain can basically just burst because of certain things like blood pressure. For the most part, blood pressure can do that. And when your blood pressure is so high, the tiny vessels that are in your brain, when we talk about blood vessels, we usually think it's the ones we see on our skin. Those are large vessels. Those are not easily compromised. But for the tiny ones that supply the organs, such as the brain, if due to a high blood pressure it bursts, there's going to be bleeding, and the bleeding will result in a clot, and then a stroke will happen. So that is how stroke is formed. And we usually think stroke is not something that is rampant, but can you believe that every 40 seconds somebody in the US gets a stroke? Yes, every 40 seconds. That's what the data suggests. So every 40 seconds, somebody in the United States gets a stroke. That means that people are getting stroke as we speak. As we proceed with this live, you can basically say people are going to be getting a stroke. So 40 seconds, every 40 seconds, somebody gets a stroke. And that is a sad case. But there are certain easy things that we can do to prevent stroke from happening. We just overlook them most of the time. But I'm here today to share with you 5 basic things that you can do, plus a bonus point if you stay to the end, that you can do to protect yourself against a stroke. If you have seen somebody with a stroke before, or if you had a family member who had a stroke, I'm pretty sure you know that it's not something to play with. And so stick around and invite somebody as we go on to see what we can do to basically avoid stroke. So the first thing that we can do sounds pretty obvious because I already mentioned it, right? It's blood pressure. Now, if you have a high blood pressure, obviously you are most likely going to get a stroke. And so that's the first basic thing to do if you want to prevent a stroke or to avoid a stroke. First of the 5 is to ensure that your blood pressure is under control. Now, for somebody without hypertension, the American Heart Association suggests that your blood pressure should be 120 over 80. Less than that, less than 120, and the top number over less than 80. Now, as soon as you get above 120 over 80, you are in the elevated column. And you know your pressure. If you don't, you got to know what it is. Once you're in the elevated column, your risk for stroke begins. And it's actually not just one thing that increases your risk. But obviously, one way to avoid a stroke is to ensure that your blood pressure is under control. If you are over 120 at the top number and an 80 at the bottom number already, if you are less than that, you are good. But if you are over, there's always room for improvement because you can always come down. So the first thing to do to avoid a stroke is to ensure that your blood pressure is under control. Your blood pressure is under control. I don't know if it is higher than the 120 or it is higher than 140 or however high your blood pressure is, but doing anything at all to bring it down some, it's always a good thing because it's going to basically reduce your risk of getting a stroke. So yes, the first thing is your blood pressure must be under control. Now you would say that, well, I'm on medication for blood pressure and my pressure, doctor says as long as it's 140, it's okay. 140 and under 140 or under 90, it's okay. Yes, everybody's goal is different. If you're taking medication and they tell you that, hey, keep it at under 140, it's better that way than to, be over 160 or 180, over 150 or anything like that. So yes, I understand your goal may be a little higher than the 120, but if you don't have it at all, shoot for keeping your blood pressure always the systolic number under 120 and the diastolic number under 80. If you already have hypertension, which is high blood pressure, then your goal may be different. Your doctor may be projecting for or looking for pressure of under 140 over under 90. So in either case, as long as you are working with a doctor, your goal may be different, and that's fine. So the key thing is to ensure that you are on point as far as your blood pressure is concerned. If your blood pressure is higher, your risk for getting a stroke is there. So first thing to prevent or avoid stroke is to take control over your blood pressure. The next thing is to have regular exercise on board. Regular exercise. Yes. Now, it's so many people have different kinds of excuses, especially with this fast-paced world. If you live in where I live, giving yourself time to exercise is basically giving money away, because many people say time is money, right? You could punch, you could do some kind of work, and you could sleep if you're not working. Just make sure that you are not wasting time, as we say. But having exercise, regular exercises, it's not a waste of money. It's not a waste of time, I should say. If you are doing exercises regularly, you are not wasting your time. And so you have to build into your routine, your daily routine, at least 30 minutes of brisk exercise, high intensity exercises, exercise programs that will make you sweat, whether you are running, as we see in the image here, or maybe you are basically, lifting some weights, or you are doing some, whatever kind of exercise you can find yourself, doing, as long as it keeps your heart moving and potentially make you sweat, you are basically involved in a high intensity exercise. And those are able to keep your heart under control and your blood pressure under control, and of course, protect you against getting a stroke. Remember, we are hitting on 5 things to get, yourself avoiding a stroke. So the first one, again, is keep your blood pressure under control. Shoot for the goals that your doctor may have set for you. And second thing, be involved in potential daily exercises. Now, if you can do daily 30 minutes per day, if you can do every other day, as long as you get a weekly goal of 150 minutes total, you are good. So keep that in mind. 150 minutes of exercise per day. 150 minutes of exercise per day. I'm sorry, per week, excuse me. 150 minutes of exercise per week, divided into either daily or every other day, or 5 days of the week, however much you do it. As soon as you hit 150 minutes of exercise, you are definitely getting a goal. And that is what will make a difference in your health and potentially keep you out of the stroke that is rampant. Remember, every 40 seconds, somebody in the US, now if we add the whole world population, where healthcare delivery is potentially even worse, it's probably going to be less than 40 seconds. But remember, in a population of about 300 million people, every 40 seconds, somebody gets a stroke. So don't think it's far-fetched to talk about it, and it's far-fetched to do exercise. Keep your exercises going. Your running, your weight lifts, your high-intensity exercises of all kinds, so that you do yourself a great favor, a great service by avoiding stroke. So that's the second part. Now, the next part of our 5-point ways of avoiding stroke is dietary changes. Now, according to studies, there's a study, published studies, several studies, but according to the JNC, the recommendation is that you include greens in your diet. Greens. Now, it may be difficult to do. Some people find it very easy to do, but others have to struggle to add greens because culturally you may have been told that that is not something that is sweet. You're wasting yourself, your time, and you could use some other food. But this is something that studies have actually postulated, that you need to be adding greens. Now, I'm showing fruits and potentially some vegetables, but we could talk about all green leafy vegetables. Those are full of nitrates, vitamins, and all kinds of good things that will protect your arteries from the buildup of plaques. And also, because of the rich sources of nitrates, you're also going to be able to open up your blood vessels easily for blood flow to occur, so that you don't incur any resistance in your arteries, leading to a breaking of a plaque that will lead to a clot, and that clot forming and then causing or lodging into the brain and then leading to a stroke. So, in short, eating any food that is green, whether it be a leaf or a fruit, whatever has greens, with specifics like, you could be eating contumaries, spinach, spinach full of a lot of nitrates, basically substances that will dilate or relax your blood vessels for easy blood flow, so resistance is reduced. That is something you got to do if you want to protect yourself against stroke and against heart attack, of course. But we are focusing on stroke right now. So green leafy vegetables, green apples, avocados. Avocados are rich sources of potassium, which also help reduce your blood pressure. So anything that is green, and avoiding any processed foods, all processed foods for that matter, will be the way to go. So the JNC suggests that you eat more greens. There's also suggestion of having the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet includes diet rich with nuts and seeds, and of course fish. All those things are also good for you to avoid potential problems in your arteries or blood vessels, where a stroke basically can form in your brain because of unhealthy blood vessels. So that is the third thing you could do. So remember, the first one is, we talked about first one, keeping your blood pressure under control. We also talked about regular exercises, making sure that you are exercising regularly. And then dietary changes, avoiding processed foods, canned foods, foods that people have already made and put in the fridge for you to buy. That's basically what processed foods are. Foods that are already been cooked and done and stored and refrigerated and frozen, and all those things are processed because they have been processed to remove fiber. They have been processed to remove vitamins. Sometimes they have been processed to add sugars. They have been processed also to add salt. All those lead to raising of your blood pressure, which will eventually lead to a stroke. And then replacing those processed foods with natural sources of foods, especially greens, veggies, fruits, nuts, and fish. Those are the ways to go as far as you know protecting yourself and avoiding stroke is concerned. So now we're gonna go to the third one, which is smoking cessation. See if I have an image for that. To smoking cessation. So if you smoke, as I speak, if you smoke and you are watching me, I would humbly ask you to quit. You know, you can quit cold turkey. You can quit in any other way that you know how, whichever way is simpler for you, even with prescriptions, smoke, nicotine patches or whatever. But definitely you need to quit smoking, because smoking has been implicated in several cardiovascular diseases, diseases that affect your heart and your vessels, your blood vessels and your brain. Smoking makes your blood vessels hardened. It hardens your blood vessels. Remember when we spoke about making dietary changes so you can have a blood vessel that is relaxed for easy blood flow. When you smoke, your blood vessels are becoming more stiff. They are becoming more stiff. There's more plaque formation. If you are smoking or you smoke, you increase plaques in your blood vessels. If you also smoke, you are definitely going to increase the risk of a clot. Smoking by itself, according to studies, just smoking by itself increases your risk of blood clots. And remember, a stroke comes about as a result of blood clot. So if you smoke, then you are at a higher chance of getting a stroke than somebody who doesn't smoke. All things being equal, if we keep your diet the same, say both of you or two people are compared to each other, one smokes, the other doesn't, everything else they do the same, the person that smokes has a greater chance of getting a stroke and even a heart attack. I mean, it's so much known in the studies. And somebody may say, I only do it a few days a week or maybe once a while. It is okay to limit it, but the best is to completely quit. And studies also show that when you quit smoking, the damage that has been accumulating over the years you smoke, they begin to reverse. That's the beautiful thing about the body. So when you quit smoking right now, your body begins to change again, going back. You're not going to get 100%, but at least it will buy you some more time when you quit smoking. And so I'll challenge you, if you want to avoid a stroke and if you want to avoid a heart attack and you smoke, you definitely need to quit. You definitely need to quit. And again, there are several ways, several means of trying, to quit. If you have questions and you want to hit me up on the comments, I will be able to direct you as to some of the products that you could use, over-the-counter products that you could actually just use, to quit smoking. But again, definitely, if you want to avoid, a stroke, you got to quit smoking. Change your diet for greens. Avoid, processed foods. Regular exercises. And then look at your blood pressure and keep it down. And then now we are talking about smoking. The last one before we go to the bonus point would be limiting alcohol. Limiting alcohol. Now, this is where it gets funny because I usually don't want to talk about limiting or drinking alcohol in moderation because it is not easy, for somebody who is hooked to alcohol to just drink and not drink enough. It's like the temptation is always there to drink and drink good. So how are you going to tell somebody to drink moderately? Are they going to just drink every now and then, or what is moderation? What is that? That's the key there. What's drinking in moderation? So in order not to deceive yourself, I would just say that try and avoid alcohol completely. Try and avoid alcohol completely. Because remember, alcohol is not only increasing your risk for stroke, it is also increasing your risk for liver disease. They don't tell you that, but how much your liver can tolerate, it's different from how much another person's liver can. And if another person may drink moderately to have a tolerance, in terms of their liver function, it may not be you. So why play with moderation? Just quit alcohol altogether. So you avoid stroke risk and then also avoid your liver from being destroyed. Now, it also gets funny here because alcohol, there's a disease that we call alcoholic liver disease, right? So, the beginnings of complete liver failure, alcoholic liver disease, liver cirrhosis, alcoholic cirrhosis, and all that. So, as you drink alcohol, you are increasing that. You're increasing that risk, and studies have been shown to prove that even now there is what we call fatty liver disease, where people, by virtue of being fat or by virtue of having a lot of fat in them, their liver begins to accumulate fat and destroys the liver. So if you're already on a higher weight side, or your weight is on the higher side, and then you are drinking even in moderation, so the two together can lead to liver cirrhosis or liver damage quick. And that is why I don't want you to play with drinking at all and saying that moderation. Well, so basically what I'm trying to say is that avoid alcohol completely to avoid stroke. Just as we said, avoid smoking completely to avoid stroke. Remember, if you do that, you'll be doing yourself a big favor, because not only is smoking going to affect your risk for heart disease, it may also affect your lungs. Some of these things you stop not just for the stroke, but also for other potentially, serious diseases that we are not even focusing on right now. So that is that one for you. So avoid alcohol and ensure that you are doing good. Now, with that being said, I think there's another one that I put a bonus point. If you are watching and you have any questions, remember to put it up on the comments and I would be able to see it. I'm not sure if all the comments will come through, but you can just try and put it in. See if I can see it, and if I can see it, we will answer those questions. All right, so that is alcohol, quitting alcohol to avoid stroke, or quitting alcohol to reduce your risk of a stroke. Now let's move to the bonus points. For the bonus point, I am talking about a couple of things. So we talked about the five reasons why you should, and the 5 ways to avoid a stroke, right? My bonus points, 2 things. Actually, I'm going to put 2 in 1 just because you watch to the end. 2 in 1. The first one is check your blood sugar levels. Though it may not be easy for you to do, and also check your cholesterol level. It may not be easy for you to do, but what it comes up to is to seek regular medical checkups. Make sure that you know, or your doctor checks your blood levels for sugar levels. If you don't know your sugar levels, you may be accumulating blood sugar, and accumulation of blood sugar or lack of blood sugar control basically leads to what we call diabetes eventually, and that also puts you at risk for a stroke. And so ensure that you are seeing your doctor all the time to make sure that you get your sugar levels checked, as well as your cholesterol levels. Now, if you know your blood pressure, you know your sugar levels, and then you know your cholesterol levels, those 3 things will inform you of your overall risk for a stroke and even a heart attack. And so that's my bonus point. Make quick and regular visits to your doctor and ensure that you are not in any danger of getting a stroke for that matter. And with that being said, I think there's only 2 over here, and I don't know if anybody has a question. If you have a question and you are watching, you can put the question on even after the live, and I will be able to get to them, and we will talk about it, answer questions as much as possible. And so, before we close again, the 5 key reasons, the 5 key ways of avoiding a stroke. 5 of them is: first, control your blood pressure. First, control your blood pressure. The second is have regular exercise, 30 to 45 minutes per day, or overall per week, 150 hours per week. And then after that, you also should have your diet examined, review your diet, and avoid any instances of processed foods, while you replace them with greens, in terms of green veggies, and fruits, nuts, veggies, and fish. All those kinds of foods that have been proven by studies and are recommended by the JNC to help you to avoid cardiovascular diseases, in particular hypertension and also stroke. And then the next one that we also talked about is avoid smoking. If you are smoking, you potentially should quit right now. It will be my plea to you. If you don't take anything from this, just make sure that you quit if you are smoking. And then lastly, also, if you are drinking alcohol, in order to avoid a stroke, you have to stop drinking alcohol. They say moderation, but I say complete elimination, because you don't know what else would happen even with your moderate alcohol drinking. If you can at all, make sure that you eliminate or quit alcohol completely. And those are the 5. And my bonus point again is be regular at your doctor's office. And then also make sure that you know of your blood sugar and also your blood cholesterol levels. Don't know those 2 will definitely help you predict your risk for heart attack or a stroke. I mean, not just to predict, but at least it will give you an informed basis of making certain choices, such as, hey, making sure that you put more effort into your exercise, making sure that you take some medications to control your blood pressure or your blood glucose or your cholesterol. Those things will become more apparent to you if you see your doctor more regularly. So with that being said, I want to say thank you for watching, and hit the like, thumbs up, and everything else, and your questions also on the live on the video, and I will be ready to answer them when possible. And I would say thank you so much. So